This couple got out $300,000 tax-free. In this episode, we're going to address the question, can I get my money out of my IRA with less tax? I'm Doug Andrew. If you're just joining me on this first episode, welcome. If you've watched others, welcome back. I'm a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist. I've been doing this for 47 years, and I helped a lot of my own clients with these strategies. I'm going to share a story right now of one couple. They were so cute, but I saved them about $300,000 plus in unnecessary tax. But I love doing this. I write books and share these stories to help people like you. In fact, back in 2005, I trained over 3,000 financial advisors, CPAs, tax attorneys on these strategies. They're always blown away with this particular story I'm going to share. In fact, I let all my professional licenses automatically expire at the end of 2005 to become a consumer advocate. So this education is about you, not about me. I want you to learn and get ideas. So I'm going to frame this with this couple. They were both school teachers, and they came to me when they were about 60 years old. And I'm going to tell you what their CPA told them to do versus what I told them to do. And once their CPA learned about my strategy, he went, "Whoa, I've never thought of that before." Well, it's unfortunate many people are given the wrong advice. To give you a little bit of background, the husband was a school teacher and his wife was, but he came to one of my educational seminars, a 4-hour seminar where he learned about 5 different modules, not only about how to best accumulate your money tax-free for retirement, be able to access it tax-free, and when you die, have it blossom and transfer tax-free. He was very intrigued with that. But he also wanted to learn about how to manage his real estate a little bit better because they had a few rental properties and so forth. And so I was teaching him the banking concept and how you can actually take advantage of mortgage interest deductions to offset money that you take out of an IRA or 401k. You can even do this on your own house if you want. The wife had not been to the seminar, so she was very skeptical. And, you know, I've seen this many, many times. So they come into my office and they sit down. She was resisting me right off the bat because he had been telling her, "Honey, I'm thinking we ought to refinance our properties, maybe even our cabin, maybe even our house." And she was like, "No way, no way. That's my peace of mind." And I appreciate that. And she came in with these bifocals and she was crocheting. And he said, "Okay, now, we're both 60. Since we're over age 59 and a half, we can take money out of our plans because they had saved money. Most school teachers will put money into tax-deferred TSAs, tax sheltered annuities, the state's 401k, maybe a 403b. And so they knew that when they retired, that they would only get the number of years they taught school times 2%. This was in the state of Utah, but this is very common. So if you taught school for 30 years, 30 times 2% is 60%. So if a school teacher was making $5,000 a month when they taught school the last few years, they would retire and get about $3,000 a month, 60% of that. Most school teachers think, "Oh, I don't think I can get by." So they are prudent. They sock away money in the state's 401k, the 403bs, the tax sheltered annuities. And so this couple had, at the time, $250,000 in tax deferred accounts. Now, their accountant said, "Do you need this money?" "No, we don't need it." "Well, if you don't need it, I wouldn't touch it then." And they go, because I said the opposite in the seminar that he went to. The accountant said, "Well, I don't know. This guy sounds crazy for telling you to take money out of an IRA or 401k prematurely when you don't need the money. Why would you do that?" And I said, "Well, let me do an illustration for you." So we have this software that shows you the darkness of the night if you keep deferring, like the CPA was telling him. See, the accountant said, "Well, just leave your $250,000 in there. You've been earning about 7%. It should double from $250,000 to $500,000 in the next 10 years. You'll be 70 and a half. And at that time, by age 70 and a half, they knew they had to start taking out money, at least the required minimum distribution. That's called an RMD, or else you'll have to pay a penalty of 50% to the IRS on top of the tax. So most CPAs say, keep deferring, let it keep growing tax deferred, and then at 70 and a half, whether you need the money or not, we got to start taking it out, but just take out the required minimum if you don't need it. And I go, you know what? That's the worst advice I've ever heard. Let me show you why. So I took their $250,000 in the illustration, and we grew it to $500,000 over 10 years, tax deferred. Then we started the RMDs. Now, that is based upon life expectancy. So if your life expectancy is 20 years at that age, you have to take out 1/20. You have to divide 20 into that. You have to take out 1/20th of that. And then every year you get older, you have to take out more each year because the government wants all that money out of those accounts and taxed before you die so they can tax you again when you do die. This is the best savings bond the government ever came up with for themselves. Now, they were shocked. Based on RMDs to the husband's life expectancy and the wife's life expectancy, even if their tax rates didn't go up, they would pay well in excess of $250,000 of tax by stringing it out and postponing it because the money continued to grow and the government kept having that partnership, that tax lien on it. They went, what? We're going to pay as much in tax by putting it off as we have in the account today at age 60? And I go, yep. Most people don't realize this. They said, what would you recommend? I said, you do a strategic rollout. Now, there's an episode that shows you how to do this, but this is what we did. I said, we're going to take the money out and get the taxes over and done with sooner than later. This is going to hurt. I felt like Sam I Am in Green Eggs and Ham. You will like this. You will see. Oh, no, we don't do it. Now, they actually, at the end of 5 years, said, thank you, Sam I Am. We like these green eggs and ham. Because I had them take out about $60,000 a year over 5 years. Now, 5 years times 60,000 is 300,000. We got 300,000 out. They would pay tax of about 12,500. I arranged things so that the tax was about 12,500. So you pay tax of 12,500 every year for 5 years. That's a total of 60,000 in tax. I went from them paying 250,000 in taxes by stringing it out down to just 60,000. And they went, oh, but it's painful. We have to pay the tax. I said, what would you rather have? 250,000 that you pay in tax or 60,000? Oh, we'll do the 60,000. And then I said, good. Should we move forward? And the wife pulled down her bifocals. And she was crocheting, and she's just, you're not going to try to talk us into mortgaging our real estate properties? I go, no, you sort of made it clear that you didn't want to do that. Well, what would happen if we did? I said, okay, if it were me, I would resurrect deductions to offset the taxes. So I showed them refinancing a property, and it took the taxes from $60,000 down to $20,000. I saved them another $40,000 by resurrecting tax deductions, by simply refinancing these properties, creating a tax deduction. They borrowed the money, I think at the time, at 6% tax deductible. It was a net cost of 4% after the tax savings, and they were earning 8% in their insurance contracts. They were making 100%. She went, what if we mortgaged our cabin too? I said, I thought you didn't want to do that. Well, I'd just like to see the numbers. So I mortgaged their cabin too, and we took the taxes from 250 down to 60, down to 20, down to 0. 5 years went by, and we got out $300,000 with 0 tax. We saved them the $250,000 in taxes by stringing it out. We got $300,000 out of their IRAs, tax free, and we repositioned that money into a portfolio of laser funds. And guess what? When they came in, they said, okay, let's pay off our house. I said, okay. I went over to reach for the phone. I said, yeah, we can just transfer that out because we took the money, if we want to, and we take it out of the laser fund and we pay off their mortgage, and the net is more money than they would have had they done it the dumb way. She said, wait a minute, would you do that? I go, no, because you're earning $32,000 of interest tax-free right now. The mortgage is only $16,000 on that portion that it takes to pay off the house. That's 100% more. Why would you kill an investment that's making you 100%, twice as much as it's costing you? So they kept the mortgage, and do you know what they did with an extra $16,000 by doing that? They took their family and all their grandkids on a cruise the next year. and they continue to have family vacations with a purpose based on that arbitrage of using the money, the interest, by having equity management coupled with their IRA 401k rollout, and they have double to triple the net spendable retirement income because of that strategy. How good is that?